Welcome in, everyone. We are looking at something today that touches on the mechanics of building a legendary life.
Truly legendary.
Yeah, and we are using a highly specific, slightly eccentric set of notes to do it.
Eccentric is definitely the right word for it.
Right. So our source material for this deep dive is a transcript of a YouTube video. It's titled Harrison Ford Biography Success Story Motivational Video, and it was uploaded by a channel called Famous People Bio.
Which is a great find, honestly.
It is.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to trace the zigzagging, often totally contradictory trajectory of a man who went from being a paralyzingly shy Midwestern kid to a $6 billion box office titan.
Right.
We're going to examine the rejection, the literal carpentry, the navigation of a shifting Hollywood landscape, and the real-life heroics that blur the line between the actor and the characters he played.
Okay, let's unpack this.
It is a genuinely rich text to dissect because it actively subverts the standard polished Hollywood mythology we are so used to consuming.
This transcript, especially with its rather chaotic, auto-generated quirks, doesn't just list a filmography. No. It inadvertently provides a structural study in professional resilience.
It really does.
It outlines a career that was built not on instantaneous, meteoric discovery, but on endurance and strategic pivoting, and a very pragmatic approach to the business of acting.
Yeah, pragmatic is the key there.
We see an individual who faced profound obscurity and leveraged manual labor to survive, which completely reshapes how you might view the concept of the overnight success.
And that journey begins in an environment that seems almost engineered to create conflicting views about the entertainment industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the source material establishes he was born on July 13th, 1942, in Illinois.
Right.
His parents were Christopher Ford and Dorothy, and the text explicitly notes that his mother was a homemaker and a former radio actress, while his father was an advertising executive and a former actor. So you have a household where both parents had pursued the arts, but both had eventually transitioned into the very defined, stable roles of post-war America.
The psychological undercurrents of that specific dynamic are worth exploring in depth.
I think so too.
Because you are looking at the mid-century American reality. The 1940s and 50s placed an immense cultural premium on stability.
Sure, conformity.
Conformity, economic security, particularly for a generation that had just lived through the Great Depression and the Second World War.
Right.
So when both of your parents are former actors, the concept of performance isn't an abstract, unattainable fantasy.
No, it's right there.
It is a tangible reality that existed within your own home. However, it is also framed as a reality that was ultimately abandoned in favor of the practical world.
Advertising and homemaking.
Exactly.
Right, it sets up an inherent tension. Does the child view the arts as a cautionary tale?
Like a fleeting phase you outgrow before getting a real job.
Exactly. Or do they internalize a sense of unfinished family business?
That's a great point.
You have a father working in advertising, an industry that requires an understanding of performance, of persuasion, of audience psychology.
Oh, very much so.
But applying it to commerce rather than art. It is acting with a corporate safety net.
Precisely. And growing up in that environment, a child absorbs the mechanics of the creative industry without necessarily romanticizing it.
Right. The magic is kind of stripped away.
You see the arts as labor, as a trade that perhaps didn't pay the bills, which demystifies the entire apparatus of Hollywood.
And that demystification becomes a crucial component of his later persona.
Absolutely. He never seemed particularly awestruck by the machinery of fame.
Never.
Perhaps because the reality of the working actor and the former actor was the baseline of his childhood.
Which makes his own entry into acting so counterintuitive.
Right.
Because despite this theatrical lineage, he wasn't a natural extrovert seeking the spotlight.
Not at all.
The text tells us he graduated from Maine East High School in Park Ridge, Illinois in 1960, and he went on to attend Ripon College in Wisconsin. And the detail here that stands out is why he finally approached acting. To overcome his intense shyness, he took a drama class purely as a functional exercise.
A tool.
Exactly, a tool. And he did it in the final quarter of his senior year.
The timing is the most revealing aspect of that detail.
The final quarter.
Waiting until the final quarter of the senior year points to a profound level of avoidance.
Yeah, you're really putting it off.
Shyness at that paralyzing level is a severe form of self-consciousness. It is the persistent, exhausting feeling of being observed and found lacking.
Right.
So to intentionally step onto a stage is to walk directly into the fire of that exact fear.
It's the last thing you'd want to do.
By delaying it until the absolute last moments of his college career, you see a person who has run out of runway.
He's out of time.
He is facing the precipice of adulthood, realizing that this internal limitation is going to dictate the terms of his life if he doesn't actively dismantle it.
It is the ultimate 11th hour pivot. He uses the theatrical apparatus not to become famous, but as a psychological tool to fix a personal deficit.
Right.
And that transition from a paralyzingly shy Wisconsin college student to someone packing their bags for Los Angeles is a massive leap.
It's huge.
Because the text notes that in 1964, he traveled to LA to find job opportunities in radio voiceovers. He takes one class to cure his shyness, and suddenly he is moving across the country to use his voice professionally.
It suggests that the drama class offered an immediate, visceral revelation.
Like a light bulb went off.
Exactly. For a highly self-conscious person, acting provides a very specific type of armor. You are given a script, blocking, and a character.
You're not you anymore.
The audience isn't scrutinizing you. They're scrutinizing the construct you are inhabiting.
Right.
That provides an immense sense of safety and liberation. The fact that he targeted radio voiceovers initially is also telling.
Why do you think that is?
It is performance without the physical vulnerability. It relies entirely on the vocal instrument, which aligns perfectly with someone who is just beginning to test the waters of public expression without wanting the full exposure of the camera.
That makes a lot of sense. But the camera eventually finds him.
It does.
And the reality of 1960s Los Angeles was incredibly unforgiving.
Brutal.
The source states that 2 years after arriving, in 1966, he landed his first uncredited role as a bellboy in the film Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round. And almost immediately, the machine spits him out.
Right back out.
The transcript details that he offended a producer named Jared Tukovsky, resulting in him finding little luck and being relegated to minor roles.
Yep.
He essentially gets his foot in the door and then slams it on his own fingers.
This raises an important question regarding the structural power dynamics of the 1960s studio system. And how easily a career could be dismantled.
Oh, absolutely.
In 1966, the old studio system was beginning its decline, but producers still held near dictatorial control over casting and career trajectories.
They were the gatekeepers.
Exactly. An unknown, uncredited actor playing a bellboy has zero leverage. To offend a producer like Tukovsky, regardless of whether the offense was a clash of egos, a misunderstanding, or simply a failure to observe the unwritten hierarchical rules of the set, was catastrophic.
It's career suicide.
It wasn't just losing one job. It was being blacklisted across a network of gatekeepers who all operated in the same insular circles.
I do wonder if his upbringing contributed to that friction.
How so?
Well, if you grow up with parents who left the industry, perhaps you lack that innate, desperate deference that producers expected from young actors.
That's a really interesting point.
If he viewed acting as just a trade, he might not have kissed the ring the way Tukovsky demanded.
He didn't have the reverence for the hierarchy.
Right, and the creator of this YouTube transcript highlights the chaos of this era through their editing choices.
They do.
Throughout the discussion of these early struggles, the video intercuts these wildly intense, cryptic audio quotes from his much later films.
The auto-generated ones.
Yeah, we hear things like, co-host of Daybreak after the career that I had, thanks you're coming on Wednesday right from my dad's nationalization party, thanks.
The juxtaposition the video creator uses is actually a highly effective narrative device.
It is weirdly poetic.
You have the textual reality of a struggling actor being blacklisted for minor insubordination layered against the audio of a man who commands absolute authority.
Oh.
When the video drops in a quote like, "It's an important thing in my culture to make my father proud," or just an intense, disembodied voice demanding, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
It creates a stark contrast between his present reality and his future mythology.
The industry was literally asking, who are you? And concluding that he was a disposable bellboy.
Precisely.
He does eventually claw his way to his first credited role in the 1967 Western A Time for Killing. But it is what happens parallel to these minor roles that fundamentally defines his narrative. He doesn't just endure the rejection, he diversifies his labor.
He pivots.
The text lists his work on television shows throughout the late 60s and early 70s. Gunsmoke, Ironside, The Virginian, The FBI, Love American Style, and Kung Fu.
A lot of classic TV.
But standard guest star work wasn't sufficient to support his growing family. He was married to Mary Marquardt, they had 2 sons, and to survive, he utilized his carpentry skills and even worked as a stagehand for the rock band The Doors.
We need to analyze the sheer cultural dissonance of that resume.
It's completely disjointed.
Working on Gunsmoke or the FBI meant operating within the most conservative, rigid, and sanitized environments in American media.
Right.
Those shows were factories, churning out highly structured morality plays.
Yep.
Then he leaves that soundstage and goes to work as a stagehand for The Doors.
The Doors.
A band that represented the absolute apex of the chaotic, anti-establishment Dionysian counterculture of the late 1960s.
It's night and day.
He is navigating 2 fiercely opposing Americas, not as a participant in either movement, but as a laborer facilitating both.
That is a phenomenal point. He is building the sets for the conservative establishment by day and hauling the amplifiers for the radical counterculture by night.
Just putting in the work.
And he is doing it purely to keep a roof over his family's head. It completely shatters the illusion of the pampered artist.
Exactly. And the psychological grounding provided by carpentry cannot be overstated.
How do you mean?
Acting is an inherently subjective, uncontrollable profession. You are entirely dependent on the whims of casting directors, the opinions of producers like Jerry Tarkovsky, and the unpredictable tastes of an audience.
You have zero control.
It breeds insecurity. Carpentry is the exact opposite. It is objective, governed by physics and geometry.
Right, it's tangible.
A joint holds or it doesn't. A cabinet is plumb or it isn't. By maintaining a parallel career in manual labor, he retained agency.
He wasn't helpless.
He didn't have to beg for validation from an industry that clearly didn't value him yet. He could point to a physical object he built and demand fair compensation for it.
The YouTube video actually includes a quote that perfectly encapsulates this era. Every civilization was built off the back of a disposable workforce.
It is a profound inclusion by the video's creator. In the context of Hollywood, the disposable workforce consists of the uncredited bellboys, the stagehands, the carpenters.
The people you don't see on the posters.
They are the invisible infrastructure that allows the civilization of the entertainment industry to function.
Right.
By fully embracing his role within that disposable workforce, he paradoxically made himself indispensable. Furthermore, the physicality of carpentry, the calluses, the posture, the quiet utilitarian focus seeped into his acting methodology.
He brought that onto the screen.
He stopped trying to quote-unquote act and began to simply exist on camera with the heavy, unpretentious presence of a working man.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that specific, unpretentious presence turns out to be exactly what the shifting cinematic landscape was about to demand.
It was perfect timing.
As we move into the 1970s and 80s, the trajectory goes from a horizontal crawl to a vertical launch. He enters his golden era.
The big leagues.
The transcript rattles off an astonishing list of 70s hits: American Graffiti, The Conversation, Apocalypse Now, Heroes, Force 10 from Navarone, Hanover Street, and The Frisco Kid.
To understand that pivot, you have to look at the macroeconomic shift happening in Hollywood during the 1970s.
The new Hollywood era.
Exactly. The old studio system that had blacklisted him was collapsing. A new generation of auteur directors, people like George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, were taking control.
They were changing all the rules.
They were rejecting the polished theatrical leading men of the 1950s. They wanted realism, grit, and a sense of lived-in authenticity.
They wanted real guys.
When George Lucas is casting American Graffiti, or Coppola is casting The Conversation, they aren't looking for a pristine movie star. They're looking for a guy who looks like he could actually build a house.
Right.
His years in the disposable workforce became his greatest asset. It imbued him with an effortless, cynical edge that perfectly matched the paranoia and disillusionment of 1970s cinema.
And he leverages that momentum flawlessly into the 1980s, forming collaborations with a new set of visionary directors like Ridley Scott, Peter Weir, and Roman Polanski.
Powerhouses.
The text highlights Blade Runner, The Mosquito Coast, Frantic, and points to the 1985 film Witness as a massive critical milestone.
Witness is huge.
For Witness, he was nominated for Best Actor at the Academy Awards, the BAFTAs, and the Golden Globes.
Witness is the vital pivot point of his critical reception.
Why'd that one specifically?
Up until that point, he was heavily associated with massive franchise-driven blockbusters. But Peter Weir's Witness required a deeply internalized, stoic performance.
He plays an urban detective hiding out in an Amish community.
The role demanded the exact physical economy and quiet authority he had been cultivating since his carpentry days.
It stripped away the special effects.
The Academy nominations were the industry's formal acknowledgement that he wasn't just a charismatic presence in space operas or action films. He was a formidable, highly disciplined, dramatic actor.
The video creator emphasizes this mythological ascent by inserting incredibly dramatic sci-fi and action quotes.
Again, with the audio.
Right as it discusses this golden era, we hear lines like, "When the aliens first invaded, I nearly destroyed us, and I was raised to do one thing, I've got nothing to fight, and you were bred for this, you see things."
Those audio inclusions serve to highlight the archetype he was calcifying in the cultural consciousness.
The hero.
He had become the definitive American action hero, but a very specific iteration of one. He wasn't the invincible, muscle-bound superhero that would dominate the late 80s.
Right, he wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He was the reluctant, battered, deeply cynical everyman who was forced into extraordinary circumstances and survives through sheer grit and competence.
He always looks like he's having a terrible time saving the world.
Exactly. When the audio says, "You were bred for this, you see things," it underscores how audiences had come to view him as a singular figure uniquely equipped to anchor these massive, chaotic narratives.
But the narrative doesn't stay in that rarefied air forever.
It never does.
The transcript presents a fascinating dichotomy between his absolute domination of the 1990s and what it bluntly calls the forgotten era that followed.
The forgotten era. That's harsh.
Very harsh. Let's look at the 90s first. The source lists an unbroken chain of commercial and critical juggernauts, noting his work with directors like Alan Pakula, Andrew Davis, Sidney Pollack, and adaptations of Tom Clancy novels.
A huge run.
The list is staggering. Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, Presumed Innocent, The Devil's Own, The Fugitive, Sabrina, Air Force One, What Lies Beneath, and Regarding Henry.
That decade represents a masterclass in understanding and monopolizing a specific market niche.
The thriller niche.
In the 1990s, the adult-oriented thriller was the most lucrative genre in Hollywood. Audiences wanted intelligent, tension-driven narratives centered on competent professionals facing systemic corruption or extreme peril.
Right.
By collaborating with directors like Pakula, who mastered the paranoia thriller, and Pollack, who excelled at prestige drama, he completely cornered that market.
He owned it.
Whether he was playing the president in Air Force One or a wrongfully accused doctor in The Fugitive, he provided a baseline of hyper-competent reliability. He was the most bankable star in the world because audiences fundamentally trusted him to solve the problem on screen.
But the text is ruthless in its assessment of what came next.
Right.
Right after listing that legendary 90s run, the source material explicitly states that the late 90s and early 2000s are best forgotten.
Ouch.
It lists 6 Days, 7 Nights, Random Hearts, K-19 The Widowmaker, Hollywood Homicide, and Firewall as the evidence of this decline.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it demonstrates the brutal, cyclical nature of the entertainment industry and the inevitability of audience fatigue.
People just get tired of things.
It isn't necessarily that his skills degraded. It is that the cultural zeitgeist shifted. The formula that dominated the 90s, the analog, competent everyman, began to feel out of step as the 2000s ushered in a new era of digital effects.
CGI took over.
CGI, superhero franchises, and a different type of cinematic pacing. Hollywood Homicide and Firewall are attempts to apply a 1990s framework to a 2000s market, and the friction is evident.
It just doesn't quite fit.
The bluntness of the transcript's best forgotten label reflects how quickly pop culture can discard an icon when they fall out of alignment with current trends.
I want to push back on that slightly, though.
Go ahead.
Is it entirely the market shifting, or is it also the danger of becoming too comfortable in a specific archetype?
That's a fair question.
If you spend 10 years playing variations of the exact same hyper-competent, stark professional, doesn't the audience just get bored? Films like 6 Days, 7 Nights or Random Hearts felt like they were relying entirely on his established persona rather than offering a compelling new narrative.
That is a very fair critique, and it highlights the trap of immense success.
You get boxed in?
When a specific formula generates billions of dollars, the studio apparatus heavily incentivizes you to repeat it.
They want the sure thing.
The risk-taking that defined his choices in the 1970s, like taking a chance on a weird sci-fi noir like Blade Runner, is replaced by the safety of starring in Firewall. The forgotten era is the result of relying on past momentum rather than actively innovating.
Right.
However, the true measure of a legendary career is not the absence of a slump, but the capacity to engineer a renaissance.
And the text details exactly how that renaissance was engineered. He doesn't fade into obscurity.
No, he doesn't.
He returns to the cultural forefront, starting with the projects like Crossing Over and the documentary Dalai Lama Renaissance. And then he deploys the ultimate trump card, leaning back into his most iconic intellectual property. In 2008, he starred in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
A massive return.
Which the text notes became the second highest grossing film worldwide that year. He follows that with Extraordinary Measures and Morning Glory in 2010.
The strategy here is fascinating. He leverages the intense generational nostalgia of the audience.
People loved seeing him back in the hat.
By returning to a character that defined the 1980s, he bypasses the shifting trends of the 2000s and taps directly into a deeply rooted cultural affection.
It's a direct line to the audience's childhood.
The immense financial success of Crystal Skull proves that while his 90s thriller persona might have fatigued the audience, his mythic franchise-level iconography was still completely intact and highly monetizable.
The video intercuts another clunky, auto-generated quote here. Legend says that a crystal skull was stolen from unethical Lost City in the Amazon, supposedly the build-out.
It's so disjointed.
It's a direct nod to that return to myth-making. And that brings us to 2011 and one of the most revealing anecdotes in the transcript.
I love this story.
He stars in Cowboys and Aliens with Daniel Craig and Olivia Wilde. To promote the film at the San Diego Comic-Con, he appeared on stage in handcuffs, flanked by security guards, acting as though he had been physically dragged to the convention against his will.
It is a masterstroke of meta-commentary.
It's hilarious.
He is fully aware of his reputation as a notoriously grumpy, reluctant participant in the Hollywood promotional machine. Instead of fighting that perception, he weaponizes it for comedic effect.
He leans all the way in.
By showing up in handcuffs, he is winking at the absurdity of the convention, the required enthusiasm of modern movie promotion, and his own curmudgeonly brand.
But is it authentic?
What do you mean?
We often praise him for being the reluctant megastar, but isn't showing up in handcuffs a highly calculated piece of performance art?
Oh, absolutely.
He knows exactly what the Comic-Con audience wants. They want the grumpy carpenter who hates doing press. Is it genuine reluctance, or is it just brilliant, self-aware PR?
It is the point where the two become indistinguishable. The reluctance was originally genuine, dating back to his days as a stagehand who viewed acting as a blue-collar job, not a calling.
Right.
He never liked the sycophancy of the press tour, but over the decades, as he realized that audiences found his gruff, monosyllabic interview style charming, it became a codified part of his public persona.
It became his brand.
The handcuff stunt is calculated PR, absolutely, but it is PR built on a foundation of authentic truth. He is playing a heightened caricature of himself, and the audience loves it because it feels like an honest rejection of Hollywood artifice.
And the financial results of this persona, combined with his undeniable cinematic legacy, are frankly staggering.
The numbers are unreal.
The text outlines the math. He went on to star in Paranoia in 2013 with Liam Hemsworth and Gary Oldman, and then reprised his legendary role as Han Solo in Star Wars Episode 7. But look at the lifetime statistics the transcript provides. In 1997, Empire ranked him #1 in its top 100 movie stars.
#1.
He received the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award in 2000 and the Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille Award in 2002.
Incredible honors.
In 2006, he won the Jules Verne Spirit of Nature Award. And the box office. Over $3.5 billion domestically, surpassing $6 billion worldwide.
$6 billion.
He is the third highest grossing U.S. domestic star, $6 billion over 30 years.
To maintain that level of velocity for 3 decades requires an incredible convergence of talent, instinct, and rigorous discipline.
You don't do that by accident.
Generating $6 billion means you haven't just captured a single generation, you have remained relevant across multiple distinct eras of cinema.
Right.
You have survived the death of the 70s auteur movement, dominated the 90s studio era, and seamlessly integrated into the 21st century franchise machine.
He adapted to everything.
It is a testament to the enduring appeal of the grounded, cynical, yet fundamentally decent archetype he perfected.
So what does this all mean?
Good question.
When you step back from the $6 billion and the Lifetime Achievement Awards, who is the actual man?
Right, outside of the movies.
The transcript transitions in its final sections to his life outside of the cinematic universe, and the details are almost too perfect.
They really are.
First, it covers his family structure, his marriages to Mary Marquardt, Melissa Matheson, and his current marriage to Callista Flockhart, with whom he adopted a son, Liam. But then it delves into his extracurricular life. He is an avid pilot who owns both aircraft and helicopters.
A real aviator.
And he doesn't just collect them, he utilizes them in ways that sound like plot points from his own movies.
It's wild.
The text explicitly states he rescued a hiker overcome by dehydration, and he has also been involved in actual crashes, a Bell 206L4 Long Ranger helicopter, and a fixed-wing aircraft, and walked away unhurt.
What's fascinating here is the total collapse of the boundary between the actor and the mythology he represents.
The lines are completely blurred.
Audiences project heroism onto actors, but we intellectually understand it is a simulation.
Sure, it's pretend.
We know there are stunt coordinators, safety wires, and CGI, but here, the source material reveals a man who actively pursues extreme physical risk and public service in his private life.
Real risk.
Piloting a helicopter to locate and extract a dehydrated hiker from a mountain is a high-stakes, highly technical operation.
You can't fake that.
Walking away from two separate aviation crashes speaks to a level of physical durability and composure that mirrors the characters he has played for 40 years.
It is as if the stoicism he learned as a carpenter in the 60s and the heroism he performed on screen in the 80s merged into his actual off-screen reality.
It's an incredible synthesis.
And the text provides perhaps the most poetic, almost unbelievable detail of his entire biography.
I know what you're going to say.
He serves as a general trustee on the governing board of the Archaeological Institute of America.
It's too perfect.
The man who portrayed the most iconic fictional archaeologist in cinematic history is actively governing the primary professional organization for actual archaeologists in the United States.
It is the ultimate synthesis of pop culture and academic reality.
It really is.
It demonstrates a deep, sustained intellectual curiosity that goes far beyond the superficial requirements of an acting role.
He didn't just read the script and go home.
He didn't just wear the fedora and recite the lines. He clearly developed a profound respect for the actual discipline of archaeology and used his immense cultural leverage to support its real-world institutions.
Right.
It shows a desire to ensure that his fictional legacy yields tangible academic benefits.
And that desire for tangible impact extends heavily into his philanthropy, which the text lists extensively.
He does a lot.
He serves the Young Eagles program, Wings of Hope, Conservation International, Restore Hetch Hetchy, and Earthshare. It also notes he is a Life Scout, the second highest rank in the Boy Scouts, and actively volunteers for community projects.
When you look at that specific portfolio of philanthropic interest, aviation, environmental conservation, archaeology, and community service, it paints a cohesive portrait of his core values.
Very consistent.
He is focused on the physical world. He is focused on preserving history, protecting the environment, and utilizing mechanical skill like aviation to serve others.
It's all action-oriented.
It is a highly pragmatic, action-oriented approach to philanthropy. It is entirely consistent with the young man who built cabins to feed his family. He has simply scaled up his resources. He is still focused on building, preserving, and maintaining the structural integrity of the world around him.
It has been a truly massive, winding journey we've unpacked today.
Incredible scope.
We started with a fiercely shy kid in Illinois, born to parents who had traded their own artistic ambitions for mid-century stability. We watched him take a single drama class at the absolute last minute of his college career, just to break the paralysis of his own self-consciousness.
A huge turning point.
We tracked him through the brutal realities of 1960s Hollywood, getting blacklisted by a producer while playing a bellboy, and retreating to the physical labor of carpentry and hauling gear for the Doors.
Working on the disposable workforce.
We analyzed his meteoric rise through the shifting landscape of the 70s and 80s, his absolute commercial dominance of the 90s thriller genre, the inevitable creative slump of the early 2000s, and his highly self-aware, triumphant return to franchise iconography.
He lived multiple lives in one career.
We are looking at a man who generated $6 billion, walked away from helicopter crashes, rescued stranded hikers, and actively governs the archaeological community.
It is a narrative that fundamentally redefines the architecture of a successful career.
It really does.
It is not a story of divine intervention or immediate discovery. It is a story of a man who utilized manual labor to secure his independence, who developed a highly specific, grounded persona that the culture eventually demanded, and who navigated the treacherous cycles of the entertainment industry with a cynical, pragmatic endurance.
It proves that the path does not have to be a straight line. The detours into the disposable workforce, the self-inflicted wounds with gatekeepers, the eras that are best forgotten, they are all structural components of the final legacy.
And as we close our analysis of this remarkable transcript, I think it is vital to return to the very beginning, to the catalyst of this entire $6 billion trajectory.
The college class.
Consider the fact that he enrolled in that drama class in the final quarter of his senior year. He was not motivated by a desire for global fame or wealth or a legacy in cinema.
Not at all.
He was motivated entirely by a desire to overcome his own crippling shyness. He took an action to confront a personal limitation that was restricting his life. It leaves you with a profound question to consider regarding your own trajectory. What specific paralyzing internal limitation or fear are you currently avoiding? And if you finally decided to face it head-on, not for the sake of ambition, but simply to free yourself from its grip, what completely unforeseeable universe of opportunities might that single act of courage unlock?
That is the perfect, provocative thought to end on. A legacy isn't born from the desire to be a legend, it's born from the decision to finally step out of the shadows and face the work in front of you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it provided you with a new perspective on the mechanics of endurance, the value of the disposable workforce, and the power of facing your own limitations. Until next time.